If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new songs in the description. So, y'all know that Drizzy Drake is thinking about retiring. At least that's what he said in that recent interview with Lil Yachty that I made a video on when we didn't have the full interview yet. We now have the full interview. But my question when I first heard this was always, if Drake goes, who will replace him? Because he holds such a special role in hip-hop and at this point in the music industry as a whole that it's going to be a very hard role to fill. So let's take a look at who will replace Drake if he does decide to retire. Real quick, if you don't want to listen to this, make sure to skip 20 seconds into the future, but you can now sign up for my free newsletter with the first link in the description. It comes every Sunday and details everything that's been happening in hip-hop over the past week. And also, follow me on TikTok. I'm posting on the daily. You don't want to miss out on that. Now let's get into the video. So we got to take a look at what makes Drake so special. Before we get into the interview a little bit more, let's talk about Drake, because I've been thinking about his role in hip-hop a lot over the past week, ever since we got that interview with Yachty. Now, Drake is someone really special, and when thinking about who can replace him, you need to understand that we got like nobody that does what he does. He is somebody that brought that melodic singing side, that R&B side, into the mainstream of hip-hop itself and combined the two. Drake can, on one side, sing, even though a lot of people make fun of him for that and call him a pussy for that, and we can make fun of Drake all day long. We can't deny his impact, and we can't deny what he's done for music and for hip-hop. But he can also rap. That was, proven when he decided to drop projects like, for example, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, but also, I think, on Her Loss, which was also one that I thought, he was rapping on. And also Yachty was the one that said in that interview that when he asked Drake what was the main thing that he was upset by, that people say about him or that people misunderstand about him, and Yachty's answer to that question was he doesn't understand, or he always finds it unfair that people don't think that Drake is a real rapper, because apparently if you know him behind the scenes, the dude can actually rap, and obviously that's his job and like his choice of career. But it's also one that we always make fun of because he's not the best rapper. He's not like somebody that can go, ultimately hard on a beat that we know from delivering crazy verses. He's always the guy that sings a little bit. You know what I mean about Drake. Let's stick to the interview a little more before we talk about the people that can even replace him. Now, in that interview, he said, and it's kind of a clickbait that Yachty did, but obviously it wasn't because it was in the interview. Drake said that he is thinking now, about a graceful exit of the music industry. He's thinking about how he can successfully transition from being in the industry, dropping music, dropping albums, to kind of slowly exiting it. He said that he will likely never fully exit. He'll still do verses here and there, do performances, guest appearances here and there. The first person that I thought of was Andre 3000, who's also like not active anymore, but who does like very, very rare verses here and there. Another great example would be Hov, Jay-Z, who is also not actively dropping music, but he does, do a lot more verses than Andre, so maybe that's a better example, Jay-Z. That is maybe the role that I can see Drake in. But also what he said, which we gotta add because it is essential to this, is that he is not thinking about retiring anytime soon. He's still got a couple of projects to drop. He's still got, a couple of moves to make when it comes to the music industry before he completely exits it. And that's kind of the clickbait, because in the preview of the interview that I talked about, it was kind of like, oh, I'm thinking about a graceful exit, and there was no context added. He did say that he was still going to be around for a couple of years, maybe until he hits like 40. He's like, 36 now, so that's not even that far in the future. But at some point in the near future, we can definitely see Drake slowly fade away. Now, a second element to what makes Drake so special, aside from that, fusion between melodic singing R&B and hip-hop and rapping, is that he has been able to maintain his relevance over the past 15 years by always riding new waves and by always identifying trends. I mean, we saw this happen by him putting on so many artists. I mean, he started out in the late 2000s basically, and he was on songs with Eminem and Ye and Wayne, and that was the vibe that was going on back then. Then early 2010s, he kind of defined his own sound with Take Care, for example. There was a Drake sound that everybody kind of always associates with Drake, which I talked about with that more softer R&B side, but still rapping. So that was one that he didn't invent or didn't pioneer, but definitely brought to the next level. And then from there on out, it was always him riding new waves. We saw him collaborate, for example, with artists like Future on some trap beats on Metro Boomin production on What a Time to Be Alive, which was definitely not something he did before, when it was more like softer beats and boom bap stuff, kind of what he was influenced by coming up, growing up. And then the years after that, he was influencing and putting on a lot more artists. Lil Baby with Yes Indeed. Big one for Baby. Baby wouldn't be at the place he's at today without Drake. The Migos on the Versace remix. We wouldn't have the Migos and Atlanta on the map like that with the trap sound that the Migos not pioneered but brought to this modern new level without Drake, putting them on. We wouldn't have, for example, stuff like, Look Alive, blocked by JB, even though he kind of fell off. But you get what I'm saying. He was the one that always identifying these trends and riding that wave and putting these artists on. I mean, most recently, people were only talking about Yeet because Drake co-signed him on a story and they got a picture together. And so that's always been a big part of that. And people thinking about, he's going to have a Drake feature, whatever. Not saying that Yeet wouldn't have blown up without Drake, but still, the Drake cosign is one of the best things that you can get in the music industry and in hip-hop. Now let's actually talk about some names, because we got to talk about who can replace Drake. Now that we have identified what he's so good at, who can fill that role, and honestly, I don't think there is anybody to fill that role. We can look at people like J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar, who's kind of the top three with Drake together, who are still, but only of the older generation now. There aren't upcoming artists that have reached that level yet where they can fulfill that role, and it's not going to be J. Cole or Kendrick. They are just not on a level like Drake when it comes to commercial success and when it comes to just internationally being these big artists. Kendrick is more on his spirituality side. J. Cole is more on his just chilling his life and doing good kind of side. Nobody's doing it like Drake. And when you think about the people that we've always named when it came to they can replace Drake, and they're the ones that also embody this, melodic singing side together with some rapping, the first name that came to my mind was Roddy Ricch. And Roddy was always the one that we talked about leading this new generation, whatever that means, like the next big thing coming up. But honestly, after the last two albums, I'm talking about Live Life Fast, and we had an EP, we had also Feed the Streets 3, I'm not seeing that anymore. And I don't think there's a way that Roddy can come back. Maybe he can come back, but not to the level of becoming the next Drake. Kind of played that chance by dropping Live Life Fast. So that's that. So I don't think that there is anybody that can really replace Drake, and it's going to be a big void when that does happen. Maybe we have somebody coming up in the underground right now that kind of grows into that role. But what I also want to add is, who do you think it was back in the day, 20 years ago? Who was the Drake back then? It was mostly just rappers that never really got the bridge gapped into the pop sound that was popular at the time. We're in a different world now where hip hop is the new pop, but still, it was never Wayne, it was never Eminem or Ye or Jay. Nobody of these people was ever at the level that Drake is at, and that's pretty big. I gotta say that. So my prediction is nobody is gonna replace Drake, and we're gonna have a void of this big artist that still is so well known in the popular celebrity culture and whatever they talking about, and then still bridging the gap into hip-hop though, and putting on smaller artists that are very niche. I don't think we're going to have that, at least for a very long time, until somebody from the new, maybe underground, comes up and fulfills that role. But that's going to take another 10 years, the same it took Drake. So it's going to be a very interesting time for hip-hop coming up over the next 10 years, maybe. That's what I'm saying. Let me know what you think about this, though, because I think this is a truly interesting thing to talk about and something that we definitely got to discuss, because we're looking at the future of hip-hop here. I'm not saying that hip-hop is going anywhere, that it's going to lose its appeal or whatever, but maybe we'll lose Drake. But I'm excited to see what he does in the future. Let me know what you think about this, though. All of your thoughts and your opinions, your theories on this, please let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and y'all take care.